Alright, welcome back. My name's David Gawler. I got 7 years IT experience, corporate IT experience. I'm fully certified in Microsoft Linux, Linux, IBM, and I got an interest in obtaining my VMware VCP and my, I guess it's the VMware VCP, which is a virtualization certified professional, and the Mile 2 CEH exams as well. CEH and the Mile 2 security exams, and I'm going to be trying for the CEH Mile 2 exams later this year, and also the CPTS Mile 2 security exams as well. Basically, what I'm going to do today is attempt to show you banner grabbing. This is particularly useful if you're unsure of what your network host is, actually IP address. If you've got actually a IP address, I guess, like if you've got a web server on your computer and you're not entirely sure what the port number is, well, I guess you have to know the port number for the web server. But if you want to know what program or it's running, like, there's many out there for vulnerabilities and attacks that you need to keep these programs up to date. But if you don't know the what version it's running just by externally trying to touch on the system and browse a network, you can't have any idea what the system might be. But a powerful application mapper out there is Amap. This is a scanning tool that allows you to identify the applications that are running on a specific port or ports. This is achieved by connecting to the port and sending the trigger packets. These trigger packets will typically be an application protocol handshake, where you got a SYN, ACK, and SYN, ACK, ACK, SYN. Typical of that kind of TCP/IP response. Many network daemons or servers will only respond to the correct handshake, i.e., say HTTP will only respond to by the default port, port 80. That's the default port for a HTTP web server, say Apache. Web daemon web server, and it's port 80 is that web server port. In the list, in a list, excuse me, in a list and prints out any match it finds. AMAP supports TCP, IP, and UDP protocols, connection-based protocol and connectionless protocol. Regular and SSL enable ASCII and binary protocols, and a variety of options are at your disposal to continue the behavior of the tool. It can also take an Mmap machine readable printout file as its input file. Basically, we can use Nmap data to use on the Amap program as well, which is for scanning banners on different web servers. This way we can check up on how we can see what program we're running without going to the actual server itself. We can actually from the workstation view what details it may display when we try and connect to a HTTP web server. But I've got why use our tool, which is the AMAP tool. When port scanning a host, you'll be presented with a list of open ports. In many cases, the port number tells you what application is running. Port 25 is usually SMTP, which is your mail server. Port 80 is usually your HTTP server, your web server, which is what we're going to be trying to utilize and locate. However, this is not always the case, and especially when dealing with proprietary protocols running standard on non-standard ports, you will not be able to determine what application is running. Say if you set up a private web server and say Webmin is one of the popular applications out there. You can customize on a web server based on Apache, for example. You can set this port to 888888 So if you don't know that port number connecting to it, you just will never be able to connect to this web server without typing the domain name colon or IP address, which is, say, for example, 10.2.2.2.2 colon 888888, and this will connect you to the webadmin server. If you just go to the default web server and you try and type in the web address port 80, then you're naturally either going to get a failed response or just a website that come up naturally with the default website port number. But if you use out the I guess the Amap tool, and this will allow you to scan the host, and it will bring up the host details, hopefully the banner details, which will ultimately lead you to the version number and a bit more specifics about what web server or server you'll be utilizing in your port scan. But naturally, if you want to scan the port number, you can just scan the port number and just assume that port 80 is port 80. Basically, we can use a number of switches on AMAP, but we're going to be using for this illustration purpose just, I guess, where are we on the manual page, is AMAP space dash HBQV for Victor, and then the IP address and colon port 80 or just 80. So we're going to try this and see how we go and see what information we get back with this type of TCP scan, AMAP scan banner grabbing. So we're going to type in our AMAP dash BVQ A 10.0.0.14 is my DHCP assigned IP address on this web server. On the computer, it's the static server was just changed it to. So it's 10.0.0.14. Basically, we AMAP dash BVQH, and then the domain name. And colon port 80. So we're going to assume our web server is port 80 on this case, in this instance. And then we're going to press enter on that and see what information we actually get back, and see if we can't work out what port number that we're running on, or what port or system numbers we're actually trying to convert in and display our version of our web server, a daemon, and press enter. Okay, actually, I made a mistake there, actually, sorry about this. It's actually AMAP BQV, V for Victor, and then the IP address, which is 10.0.0.14 space 80. There's no colon there, it's just a space. So if we go AMAP space dash VQV and 10.0.0.14, .14 will be what, or your IP address will be, or domain name will be whatever port number you've actually assigned to do this. And basically, you need to assign your own IP address or domain name, whichever you want to scan. And I'm just going to try and attempt to scan AMAP space dash VQV space IP address space port 80, which is our assumed port 80 address, because we don't really know what our port number is, but we're assuming our port web server is our default web server, which is port 80, and press enter. We'll see what we throw back at our system by trying to attempt the banner grab. And it's quite involved HTML coding, but you should be able to depict what version of Apache or whatever is web server daemon you are running, or they are running. AMAPs in this case is found an Apache server running, and the last mod Friday, 04 February 2011. Basically looking for a Apache version type. You might have to go into a different type of scan to find the actual version number. But at least we know there's Apache web server based on port 80, and there's definitely a web server running on this server, and we can connect to it in some way. I guess Backtrack also allows you to install apt-get install and links LYNX and press enter. Links is a very basic web-based server client, sorry, which is like a Internet Explorer or Firefox, but it's strictly text-based, which is no images or text, or I guess it is text, but it's black and white text. It's very simple, and you can only use it in the command line prompt. There's nothing flashy about it. It's just a basic links. This is basic client. Press enter. And while I'm downloading this links web client or browser, we're just going to be sitting here and waiting for it to install. But basically what Amap does is goes out to its web server and finds a banner and attached to its web server banner. And if it can't attach it to a banner or a port number, then it's or IP address, then it's going to fail on this type of port, and it won't come back with anything. But if there is a port and there is a web server running, or any type of server running, then it will eventually find and connect to something. So basically we've installed the and basically when it connects to something, then it's going to throw back some information about what it has connected to it. Sometimes you'll get some more information about the web server, but in our case it's only unfortunately displayed the web server program, not the web server version. But you can do more research into this, and we can in other ways find how we do this and get the actual version number of Apache server that is running our web server. But we are going to use our links client and go to links. Just go to links 10.0.0.14 and try and connect to this. That hasn't displayed back any details about the website or IP address yet, so we're still going to give it a shot. Okay. You can also use the amap command and say amap-h IP address space 80. Capital A, which is application mode, send triggers and analyze responses. Basically got protocol on IP address port 80, matches HTTP, and then it's got protocol on IP address 80 TCP, matches HTTP Apache version 2. And basically what this is bring back is the Apache, the fact that it is running Apache definitely, and we can utilize this information to further our attack or secure our web server against the unwanted visitors, and we can basically lock down our firewall as much as possible. And I'll certainly be doing this in the future videos. Thank you for viewing my short and brief demonstration on Amap banner grabbing techniques, and Amap is just one of these programs that are out there, but I find Amap quite useful to scan for banners. Thank you for viewing, and have a nice day. Thanks again.